Hello everyone, my name is Ehiki, I'm the creator of engines-database.com, and this is your weekly game engine news. So basically, we're going to talk a little bit about the most interesting stuff that happened last week in the game engine space. So there's a bunch of new tech, interesting stuff to talk about, some articles, some blog posts, some new GitHub releases, and I'll be talking very briefly, just a summary of each news. And every link for every blog post, every article, I'll be posting in the video description down below. And yeah, let's get started. So first, let's warm up with Godot. And there are just two new releases this week. One of them is 4.2 Beta 4. So this is not the stable 4.2 version yet. We'll talk a little bit about this last week. If you want to take a look at what is the new features for 4.2 Beta, you can take a look at this article, 4.2 Beta 1. That explains like all the changes, all the breaking changes and all the new features for Godot 4.2, which is going to look really good. I'm really excited for this new version. There are a bunch of new stuff, a bunch of UI and UX improvements, new navigation that was a little bit finicky on Godot 4.2, Godot 4.1. And there's a bunch of new stuff here. The thing that I'm most excited about actually is the new rendering changes that they're doing here. Rendering particles and shaders. For the rendering team, the name of the game this time around is Go Big or Go Home. And this is really cool. Like I think it's they are basically paying the promises of Godot 4.0. With Godot 4.0 there are a bunch of rendering changes, there are some breaking changes, there's a bunch of new stuff with the Vulkan rendering, but it wasn't still quite there yet. And 4.1 was basically ironing most of the stuff in 4.1 was to fix some bugs and some glitches and some very finicky stuff on the 4.0 version when it was released. But 4.2 looks like it is the most ideal baseline for the Godot 4 branch. It looks really cool, and all the rendering stuff that is going to be in there, it's really exciting. I'm really hopefully this is going to be a really cool version. We're going to see a lot of new tech demo for this, the new rendering stuff they are preparing. And yeah, and this is like they're just releasing the 4.2 Beta 4, which means that it's not stable yet. So do be careful if you are planning to test this version with your projects. And the other article is Godot 4.1.3. So this is now a stable release. This is a minor version change. So it's just like a maintenance release. It's mostly bug fixing. So if you're using Godot 4.1, it's pretty much stable. It's very safe to change to upgrade to 4.1.3. And if you want, you can take a look at all the changes here. It's just, again, mostly bug fixing. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, but not as exciting as 4.2. Let's see how it's going to turn out. So Flax just released the 1.7 version. Now first, if you're asking what is Flax, Flax is a game engine that is really similar to Unreal and Unity. It has C++ and C# as scripting programming languages, but I think it markets itself more as a fast to iterate, fast to develop game engine. So I think it's a very descriptive statement. With Flax, you can boost your game development and bring it to another level. We've created tools that are slim and agile, no more lagging actions, long importing, nor slow compilation. Everything you do as a developer with Flax is meant to be instant. So if you're mad at Unreal or Unity because you have to get a cup of coffee every time that you are waiting for shaders to compile, I think this is kind of the engine that is trying to solve this problem. But yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to test it yet, but it looks quite interesting. It has a bunch of tech, a bunch of really cool stuff as features. But the 1.7 version, I think the most important highlight here is the better licensing. And here is Flax Engine end user license agreement has been updated to be less strict in certain areas. So all of these changes here that is describing is basically telling users, hey, we are never going to do a Unity on you. Like after the Unity kerfuffle, game engines starting to notice that it's really important to do not break the user's trust on you. And this is basically the part of the aftermath. And yeah, I mean, this is really important changes. It's really cool to see this. And besides that, there are some tech updates here too. There's some really cool cloth physical cloth simulation. They're upgrading on the game engine. I never seen this work really well, at least on Godot. I really wanted to check a game engine that does this well. This looks pretty cool. So yeah, there's a bunch of updates here, behavior trees, and some performance improvements, editor improvements. So basically UI and UX improvements here on the editor, improved editor for macOS, and yeah, that's basically the stuff here for the 1.7 version of Flax engine. If you're interested in using Flax, in the documentation you can see here, like this is the documentation page of Flax. There are some really interesting tutorials here to migrate to Flax. So they know that most people use Unreal, Unity, or Godot right now. So they had a tutorial comparing each engine to Flax. So if you check Flax for Godot developers, they show like the differences in UI and what are the main differences, where you can find the stuff that you will usually find in the other engine in Flax, and some terminology changes. It's really cool. It's a really interesting tutorial. It's good to see stuff like this because it makes it easier for the developer to migrate to Flax. So yeah, really cool stuff. So Unity published 3 articles this week. The first one was Explore Cross-Platform Mixed Reality Development on MetaQuest 3. So MetaQuest 3 just launched, and it looks like it's going to be a really successful headset for VR because it has some really cool tech. It has some really good environment mapping, so you can do some minority report stuff with the environment. You can do some screens in augmented reality. It looks really cool, at least from the videos that I saw. I never tested it, but here Unity in this article is showing like how you can use the Unity's AR Foundation framework to create stuff for for multiple headsets, for multiple AR VR compatible hardware. And here you can see like Unity AR Foundation is a cross-platform framework for building mobile and head-worn augmented reality or mixed reality device applications. And here's the rest of the article is just like explaining all the tech, some of the features that it has, and here's some really cool video showing what you can do. And this is part of the environment mapping of that is enabled on when you use something like MetaQuest 3, right? And it looks like looks really simple, but with this you can do a lot of stuff. You can do like some there's Minecraft tech demos that shows like this small Minecraft world inside your living room table. It's really cool. This is a really interesting article if you're interested in getting into VR and mixed reality stuff and projects. The second article is From Concept Art to Animation, Bring Fantasy Characters to Life with Ziva VFX. Now, what is Ziva VFX? I'm not really sure, to be honest, because this is the main page of Ziva VFX. It's a Unity tool, but here's I think the best description. With Ziva's intuitive toolset as a plugin for Maya, artists can replicate the effect of physics and simulate any soft tissue material, including muscles, fat, and skin, to create blockbuster quality assets with ease. So basically it's a plugin for Maya that helps artists to create physically based, accurate characters and models. I'm not really sure how it works, in the artist's pipeline, because even the article is really cool, but the article itself, the Ziva VFX is like, it doesn't matter much in the article because it's more explaining the making of this small teaser project here. This is a character made of balloons. It's an axolotl. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. It's really cute. And this article is just this making of the artist process to create this, and it goes from modeling, from how it created the simulation of the balloon physics in Maya, and how it worked on with all the other tools here. It's really cool. It's a very interesting article. I like to see this kind of stuff because it's way out of my my comfort zone as a gameplay engineer. But it's really cool stuff, and it's really nice to see this kind of tech and this kind of making of. This is all pretty animations that we'd love to see on articles. So yeah, this is cool stuff. Third and final article is just an update to the Unity editor software terms. So again, we can see here the Unity kerfuffle aftermath, but we can see they are to follow through on this commitment, we have updated the language to the editor terms based on feedback from our employees and community. Our goal is to make sure that the terms Unity users accept state that they can stay on those terms for the named version of Unity they are using, regardless of any changes to the Unity terms afterward. As of today, this update will be added to our GitHub repository and unity.com/legal. So yeah, stuff that happened last month. They are still like trying to build the trust of their users again, and this is just like they're trying to show, hey, we are sorry and we are changing our terms for the license, so you will be sure that we are never going to do a Unity again. Right? So yeah, I mean, let's see how it goes, but hopefully this is, you know, the last time that we are going to see Unity doing this kind of, you know, legal shenanigan. Castle Game Engine just published this article, slides and examples from 2 IT DevCon presentations about Castle Game Engine. This article here, this post, is just an excuse for me to talk a little bit about Castle Game Engine, because it's a really niche, really interesting, really cool game engine that has a bunch of, you know, features. We can see here the screenshot. It looks like very standard game engine, you know, this kind of editor we've seen before with the node system here. We can see like the components, like the serialized object here, you know, stuff that we've seen before in other game engines. But if you go here on features, this is, I think, the most interesting stuff from this game engine, the fact that it uses Pascal programming language. So if you never used Pascal, you're not alone. I'm a millennial. I was born in 1994. I never used Pascal before. But here's a really cool statement here. Besides the fact that Pascal as a programming language is elegant, full-featured, native, here is, I think, the most exciting stuff. The same programming language that is used to make the engine is used for your applications. This results in simplicity, it's easy to contribute, and speed. So for a game developer engineer, this is really exciting, because it means that if you get proficient in making your game using Pascal as a scripting language, you know, as a very lightweight, easy to use language, you also get proficient in changing and adapting the engine to your needs, right? And this is really cool. This gives you a lot of freedom, and I think I was both, you know, with this statement. it's a really cool game engine. So if you're interested in using Castle Game Engine, they just published this article here, and they have these slides here that show a little bit about the game engine. You know, it's a very lightweight introduction with, you know, a lot of images, a lot of bullet points, and a lot of, you know, really cool videos showing off a bit of the stuff that you can do here. So here you can see a bit of a game running in, you know, in runtime in the editor. And yeah, it's very cool. How can I go? Okay, next slide. Okay, so yeah, it's some really cool slides here. There's a lot of features, you know, a lot of it's basically a showcase for the game engine. So if you're interested in the game engine, hopefully, you know, after I brought you this really cool feature page here with the Pascal programming language. If you got interested in the Castle game engine, do take a look at the slides. Maybe you get like more invested in the game engine and you use it for, you know, for publishing a game in it. So Armory 3D just published its monthly release. If you don't know Armory 3D, it has it's basically a game engine that is directly integrated into Blender as an add-on. So there's no need to leave your favorite 3D software to create awesome video games. And it has a bunch of features. It also has like visual programming. It's a really cool game engine. The concept of never leaving Blender, you know, using Blender as, you know, your model, your 3D modeling software, and also using it as a game engine. It's not new, like we had like a game engine integrated in Blender before, but Armory 3D is it has a bunch of features. And, you know, using Blender with Armory 3D, the concept, the idea itself is really cool. I've never seen a game using Armory 3D yet, not like a big published game, which is kind of a bum, because I really wanted to see something like this. I think Armory 3D is one of the underdog of game engines that people don't talk much about. But yeah, the fact that they're still developing it gives me hope that we are going to see a big game, a big, maybe indie game published on Armory 3D someday. And but this is a monthly release that it doesn't have like it don't have a very exciting features. The highlights here is just a new recast navigation system overhaul and nodes for the visual programming language of Armory 3D. And there are some also like bug fixes here. And if you're interested in checking the source code of the Armory 3D, they do have bounties. And what is a bounty is basically an issue that you're getting paid if you solve it, right? So this is, for example, this is a feature. So this is probably way more complex, right? But hey, if you pull request something for this feature, you're getting like $100, and this is good. This is money. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think it's the first game engine that uses bounties for issues. I've never seen other game engines using this, but maybe it attracts more open source developers. I don't know. But yeah, this is it for Armory 3D. Free stuff. So if you like free stuff, there's free assets for Game Maker Shmup bundle, and this is the assets here. A little bit of a teaser demo video for the assets. It's really similar. If you used Game Maker, if you're old like me, but you never used Pascal, you're probably a millennial. And if you're a millennial and a game developer, you probably use Game Maker 6.0, right? And this is really similar to the assets that came with Game Maker 6.0. I don't know if they're based on it, but hey, I loved it. It's really similar to the stuff that I used when I was a kid. And here are the assets. Basically, you can download it for the current asset bundle is free for everyone during the month of release. At the end of the month, it will only be available to Game Maker subscribers, and after 12 months, the bundle released this month will be available for free to all users once more. This makes no sense. I don't know why they made it like this, because this is just like confusing for the sake of being confusing. I don't know if it really, it gets much more Game Maker subscribers, the fact that they are doing this free for only a month and then only after a year. But hey, whatever, it's free stuff. So yeah, grab it while it's hot, I guess, because after a month, then you can only get it after a year. Right? But yeah, cool assets, and free assets. So it's always nice to see this. Now, Bevy just launched 0.12, so this is one of the biggest releases this last week. It's really cool. But first, if you've never seen Bevy before, a quick introduction. Bevy is a refreshingly simple data-driven game engine built in Rust. Now, refreshingly simple here is an understatement, because Bevy is really nice to use, and it's really cool to see something like this in the Rust ecosystem, because Rust is known to be a very not exactly beginner-friendly programming language. It's quite hard to get some concepts, particularly the lifetime of variables and stuff, but Bevy is really nice to use. I used Bevy in a couple of small demos, and it was really nice to see something, like this in the Rust ecosystem. And it's data-driven, so if you're interested in ECS, I know ECS lost a little bit of the hype these last couple of years, but still, it's a really cool archetype to use in your games. So our engine and game logic uses Bevy ECS, a custom entity component system. It's fast, it's simple, it's capable, it has a bunch of features. It's probably one of the biggest game engines out there right now, one of the biggest open source game engines. It has a bunch of stars in GitHub too. Let's just quickly check out. Yeah, it's 28,000 stars in GitHub. It's one of the biggest game engines in GitHub. And it's really amazing. It's not like, it's definitely not overhype here. It's really cool. It totally deserves this amount of attention. And yeah, just released 0.12 and has a bunch of features. I won't go through all of the features. I think there are Game from Scratch channel as a more in-depth review of this release. I just wanted to point out deferred rendering here. So what is deferred rendering is when you do rendering in your game, we have basically two options. You have forward rendering, that you do all material lighting calculations in a single render pass, and deferred rendering that do one or more pre-passes that collect relevant information about a scene, then do material lighting calculations in screen space in a final pass after that. And if you're more interested in checking out what and how deferred rendering works in a real life scenario, there's a really cool article that I'll be posting in the description of this video that is GTA 5 graphics study. And this got quite famous as an article because it's basically doing in-depth analysis of how GTA 5 renders a frame, and it works in a deferred as a deferred rendering. I learned a bunch of stuff, reading this article. It explains very really nicely for beginners, how deferred rendering works, and it's really cool. So I'll be posting this article in the description of the video. But yeah, back to Bevy release here. So we got like deferred rendering support, and we got a bunch of stuff here. All the articles for releases of Bevy, they are really nice because they're really easy to read, and they give you a really good insight of the choices that you have to do as a game developer, as a game engine developer, right? So you have to make it easy, but also have to make sure that you cover most of the cases that people are going to use our engine for. And it's really nice. It's really cool, really long article. I recommend reading it if you want to check, if you want to get a little bit of this in-depth analysis of how Bevy works and how they choose which features to publish the releases. And also, like, they have here on the news page all the release articles here, so you can do this kind of if you're really interested in Bevy, you can check like from Bevy 0.1. You can learn a bunch of stuff in how they worked and how they built Bevy from the ground. And yeah, it's an amazing engine. You should totally take a look at it. We got FlatRedBall release here. It's also like a monthly release. And FlatRedBall, it's a funny name for a game engine, but FlatRedBall, it's a game engine that has been in active development since 2005, so it's a very old, stable game engine, with the goal of making 2D game development as easy as possible. Even today, FlatRedBall is continually being improved. Not only we're developing the best 2D game engine in the world, but we're actively using it to make our own games. So yeah, it's it's an interesting game engine. Besides the examples they themselves give, I haven't seen any other games being developed in FlatRedBall, but it's it looks like a Unity Godot or game engine, but only for 2D. So the fact that it specializes itself in 2D gives a more it gives me more confidence that you can produce 2D games more easily on FlatRedBall than in other game engines. But yeah, it's not a popular game engine at all. Haven't seen much stuff being developed on it, but it looks cool and it's very stable. And it's still being developed, so that's that's very important. And there are not many changes here, but FlatRedBall works on FNA. Currently requires from source setup, but FNA is the successor of XNA. If you don't know XNA, it's wasn't one of the most popular frameworks, mainly on the indie apocalypse era. Most of the indie games that were being developed at that time were being developed in XNA. It was a really famous framework in the Microsoft ecosystem. And now FlatRedBall works on FNA, the successor of XNA. Not really sure what that means in terms of tech, what is going to change for developers or what features this enables. But FNA is also currently being developed. So it's really nice to see this kind of integration. Even for a very niche, very indie game engine, it's important to stay up to date with modern standards. So yeah, there are not many changes, I think. Besides that, there are some new features here, some improvements, but nothing really noteworthy. But yeah, I wanted to show a little bit about FlatRedBall. So now it's a weird named game engine, but it still looks really cool if you're developing a 2D game. Finally, we got the last article. This is a new release from the FNA team. So as I just said, FNA is the new successor of XNA. It's being developed in C#, also just like XNA. And it's a game engine, it's more low level, but it's, as a successor of XNA, it's really easy to use. So if you check here about FNA, FNA is a re-implementation of the Microsoft XNA Game Studio refresh libraries. So FNA is primarily developed by video game porter Ethan Lee, who has shipped more than 4 dozen ports of XNA games using the exact branch that you see on GitHub today. Those are some examples of games made with FNA. Streets of Rage 4 was quite a famous indie game too, and Axiom Verge 2 was also like quite famous on Steam. So yeah, it's being the fact that this is a successor of XNA, being developed by a guy that developed a bunch of ports of games in XNA, it gives me a lot of confidence that it's a really good framework to use for your games, because XNA was quite famous. XNA was used in a bunch of projects in the Apocalypse era. So it's really cool. It's really cool to see like that is still alive, as a new project. And yeah, you can see here that this monthly release here has some updates in FNA 3D libraries, so the graphic writers and the audio libraries, and that's mostly it, I guess. So yep. So this is it for this week's video. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It helps a lot this channel to grow. If you got feedback, please comment out below, because I'll be reading all feedback. And if you like shorter videos, if you like videos with more in-depth analysis of each engine, please, comment it out below. I'll be checking every comment, and I'll try to improve, because I'm not an experienced content creator. I'm still learning how to pronounce some English words. Every feedback is very much welcome. So yeah, this is it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see each other next week. Bye bye.